Hey, it's Duri and welcome back to our third video in our Metabolism Masterclass. I hope you've enjoyed the first two videos, and let me just give you a quick recap of what we've learned and covered so far. So in the first video, I walked you through 4 metabolism myths or metabolism killers that have been pervasive for decades. Wrong information, misleading information that is confusing you and causing you to do things that are sabotaging your ability to lose weight, and more importantly, really slowing down your metabolism in the long term, which makes losing weight almost impossible. So I hope you enjoyed that video. Now the second video was all about the 6 fat triggers. These are the 6 big reasons why so many people, you included, are having a tough time losing weight, but also why your body is holding on to weight. Remember, the foundation of all of this, the reason your body is holding on to weight like a baby does his blankie, is because if it perceives itself to be in a threatened state, it will shut down, slow down, and literally put itself in a cocoon to store instead of expend, right? Because again, if your body doesn't know that it's safe, it's going to go into survival mode. And that's the foundation of everything. So if your body is stressed out, again, not just like worry, but I'm talking about like stress from living, toxins, exercise, foods, all that stuff that we talked about in the second video, those are all forms of stress that are going to create inflammation inside your body, which is going to lead to a high cortisol response, which is going to signal to your brain that we are stressed out, and it's going to store fat, and predominantly around your hips, belly, and thighs. Now, in today's video, I'm going to walk you through the 4-step reset, which is right here. And once again, I'm going to play Vanna White, and we'll play, well, not Wheel of Fortune, but fill in the blanks. And I'm not really Vanna White's. Well, I don't need to go any further on that. Anyways, I'm going to walk you through this 4-step reset. And this is exactly how you reset your metabolism. And the important thing to remember with this is that if any of these components are missing, you're going to have a tough time getting the results you want. So it's really important to have each one of these really kind of nailed down so that we really, remember, this is not just about eating less and exercising more. I hope you get that, right? It's about readjusting the internal environment inside your body, giving your body the tools and environment that it needs to resurrect itself, because that's what it does. We don't do anything. We can't take a pill or do anything that's going to change the way our body, we can't change ourselves. Our body has the healing code. It knows what to do. It just needs to be flicked on. That switch needs to be turned on so that it's like, okay, wow, okay, now I'm in the right environment to heal myself. And that's pretty much what it does. Okay? Now, I want to start off by giving you a short little story which is going to make sense, which is going to help you understand this a little bit better. So, as I mentioned before, I was in Barbados a couple weeks ago, and we were down there with the kids, right? So we're in the water down there is so warm, it's like a bath, it's amazing. So the kids love it, they're in the ocean, and the waves are, you know, maybe about a foot or 2 high, nothing crazy, and the kids have their water wings on, so they're okay. So I'm out in the water, and I'm just kind of like chilling out, and I see Oscar, our oldest son, who's almost 5, he's like punching the waves as they're crashing in at the shore. He's like kicking them and punching them. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, I remember doing that when I was a kid. And it was kind of interesting. It was like this interesting juxtaposition where you have this beautiful rhythmic flow of nature, right? With these waves kind of, you know, coming in a very cyclical fashion. And then you have this little kid who's trying to break that rhythm. He's trying to punch right through it. Now, on the flip side, if you look at surfers, what do? Right? Well, they time that rhythm. They honor nature's rhythm, and they work within that to catch the right wave and surf that wave. If they don't, well, they come crashing down, right? If you've ever surfed, you know what I'm talking about. And if you're like me, and you've only surfed once, then you made kind of a total fool of yourself, and it's all good. Anyways, so I also told Oscar, I'm getting him, I think that there's a lot of learning to be had from nature. So we're standing in the water at the base of the beach, and you can feel as the waves, as the water kind of pulls back out from the sand, you've experienced this as well, this kind of undertow, this riptide. And I told Oscar, I'm like, you feel that? You feel the water pulling you out there? I'm like, that's what that is. And I said, here's what you want to do if you ever get caught in a riptide, is you don't swim against it. You actually just go with it. because what happens is the currents, it actually just kind of like a conveyor belt takes you out and then goes parallel to the shore. So if you just kind of go with that conveyor belt, it'll bring you right back down, you know, a little bit further down on the beach. So the whole message here is that when we can honor nature, we're gonna do a lot better. And we are nature as well. So what I want you to understand here is that when we can act and eat and live in a way that honors our body's natural rhythms, we're gonna do a lot better. We're gonna do our body a huge service and help resurrect our metabolism to lose weight more easily, okay? So I hope that makes sense. Now, again, I'm gonna kind of bring that back into context as we go through this. So let's jump into the 4-step reset. So first step, this is the foundation. You have to have this. If you do these other 3 things without number 1, it's not worth it, okay? So the first thing is we want to eat clean. Okay, clean foods. What are clean foods? Well, they're foods that are real. They're whole foods. They're foods that are found in nature. Plant foods, so vegetables, fruits, legumes, nuts and seeds, some healthy animal products if you're into that. You don't have to be, remember, this is not, this is diet agnostic, okay? So you can be paleo, you can be vegan, you can be raw, it's up to you. These principles apply no matter what diet you're following. That's really important to remember, okay? Eating clean is about removing the junk, getting rid of the delivery food, the fast food, the takeout, the packaged foods, and really sticking to the produce aisles in your grocery store or your local butcher if you're getting meats and eggs. If that's the case, then we want to go for free range, organic, grass-fed, where we're reducing the toxins coming in. Remember those toxins being a fat trigger? We want to reduce those coming in and really focus on high quality foods that give us a lot of micronutrients, not just, you know, proteins, fats, and carbs, but also those like really important phytonutrients, the vitamins and minerals that really support all of our cells and keep us healthy. Eating clean is the foundation, because when you do this just by itself, it will start to give your body the very specific nutrients that it needs to start to reestablish a healthy environment. And when that happens, for instance, let me give you a quick example. So the adrenal glands, we talked about how important they are with respect to the stress response. And if our body is constantly stressed out and inflamed, those adrenals, which are only the size of a walnut, is it any surprise they get worn out pretty quickly, are pumping out cortisol all the time. So one of the really important nutrients to support the adrenal glands is vitamin C. Vitamin C is a very important vitamin for supporting and protecting the adrenal glands from the inflammatory byproducts of pumping out all that cortisol. It's almost like it's working so hard that it's creating damage in itself. It's kind of similar to the thyroid. For instance, the thyroid gland, in the production of thyroid hormone, produces a lot of free radicals. And that's why selenium is very important for your thyroid. Selenium is a very powerful antioxidant that, if it is not being consumed in adequate quantities, your thyroid, even if you're taking iodine, is going to suffer. So that's why if you're supplementing, for instance, with the thyroid supplements, it needs to be a well-balanced iodine supplement combination. Iodine selenium combination. But also looking at foods, for instance, Brazil nuts are an amazing source of selenium. They're the #1 source of selenium out of all foods. Eating more seaweed, for instance, to get your iodine. Vitamin C, eating pretty much any vegetables or fruit is going to help you do that. So those are just 2 examples of why it's really important to be eating clean foods, just from a nutrient perspective, okay? Now, number 2. This is where things start to get really exciting when it comes to losing weights and doing so quickly and in a way that helps you break through those stubborn plateaus, because so many of you guys and girls, ladies and gentlemen if you want, have talked about how you've struggled to, you've just been at the same weight. You know, you've done everything well, you've exercised and eaten well, and still nothing's worked. Or you've lost weight, put it back on, lost weight, put it back on, and nothing seems to help you get through that plateau. So this second step is going to give you that unfair advantage to accelerate your fat loss. So this is really powerful for 2 types of people. First, the individual who wants to lose those last 10 pounds, where it's just like, I've tried everything, but it's stuck. And the individual who is just starting. who needs like a serious kickstart to start dropping pounds. So this second step is really important for you if you're in either of those two categories. So here is the step. We want to cycle our calories and our carbs. Remember in video number 1, we talked about these metabolism killers, and one of them was that carbs for breakfast is the way we should do things, right? Having cereal and toast and stuff like that. It's not a good idea. Number 2 was the notion that carbs are bad. Therefore, the whole craze the low carb diets. Now, I mentioned that there's a way to eat carbohydrates that can help your body benefit from low carbohydrate consumption, but also in a way that prevents it from suppressing your thyroid function. Because we talked about carbs as very important for thyroid as well as leptin, okay? So let's walk through this. Now, before I take you through this, let me give you a really interesting story about why this kind of fell into my lap several years ago. So I was doing some research, working with a lot of clients, obviously personally, and at the time, this is way back in my early 20s, I had no clue about nutrition, right? So it was just exercise, no clue about nutrition, and eventually I went back to school to study holistic nutrition, and then everything kind of opened up for me. But I also realized that even with our online fitness stuff, a lot of our clients wanted some very specific nutritional advice to accelerate the results and really help them burn body fat, not just lose weight, because they're building lean muscle, right? So we want to really kind of cut down on that body fat. So I started doing some research, and what I found is some really interesting stuff. And I started, talking with colleagues and looking at what other people were doing and some really lean men and women that I knew, and asked them, what kind of approaches they were using. Again, this is way back about 10 years ago. And so I started to learn about the importance of kind of cycling calories and carbs and stuff like that. Then I started doing some more research on it, and I came across an interesting idea. This was actually developed by Professor James Neal out of the University of Michigan Medical School back in 1962. And it's a theory called the thrifty genes theory. Now it's been, well, let me tell you what it is first. Basically what he did is he was working with a lot of type 2 diabetics and obese patients, and he had these theories for why this would come about, right? Why is it that humans now are becoming so overweight and almost a large percent of the population is suffering of type 2 diabetes? And what he came to realize is that if we look at where we came from ancestrally, like 10,000 BC, right? Paleolithic man, he claimed, or the theory was that our body basically started off with this factory setting of it is built for feast and famine. And what that essentially meant was that in those times, there would be days where you'd have an abundance of food, or there might be times where there was no food available, so you didn't have as much food or no food at all. So the body had to adapt and really kind of come programmed for that type of unpredictable environment. And so during periods of feast where we'd have lots of food, our body would kind of naturally hold on to some of that food as fuel and fat storage for those famine type periods. And that helped us survive. Remember, because if we went through a famine for too long, we could die. So that kind of genetic makeup was, in theory, what helped us survive and thrive back then. But nowadays, we're still working with the same software, right? Nothing has evolved. We're the same as we were, 10,000 BC. So nowadays, the problem is that we have an abundance of food at our fingertips, right? You want pizza? Just call. You want to go to Starbucks? It's right across the street. Anytime you want, just go in the fridge. We have an abundance of food. So now we're just constantly consuming food, and these thrifty genes are simply storing, but there's never any famine. And that's why we're putting on all this weight and leading to things like diabetes and heart disease and so forth. Now, there's been a lot of kind of controversy about this whole theory, and it's been, gone back and forth with different iterations of it, and it's not really sure if it's proven, as most theories aren't, but the concept is very interesting because I'm a huge believer, again, in modeling nature and looking at where do we come from, right? Did our ancestors sit at a desk all day long? No, they were moving around, moving their bodies. That's why they were fit and strong. Nowadays, we're the complete opposite. If you watch the movie WALL-E, you saw all those people that were overweight sitting in these like floating wheelchairs. And that's kind of where things are going to go if we don't become a little bit more active. So let's go back to our roots and look at how did people live and perhaps eat back in those days, right? That's why the whole paleo movement has become so big. They said, well, what did people do 10,000 years ago? Well, let's do the same thing, right? And there's obviously some pros and cons to that type of approach. But what I've found to be true is that taking that approach with respect to understanding that you don't have to eat the same amount of food every single day is one of the most profound things you can do to tap into your body's natural metabolic rhythm. Everything in your body, we talked about cortisol, right, in the first video. We talked about cortisol going through this natural, this daily rhythm where it's high in the morning, low at night. Every single one of our hormones goes through the same thing. So why is it that we shouldn't resonate with that natural ebb and flow with our food as an example? So the way I like to approach cycling calories is with a little analogy or a little saying that goes like this. Some days high, some days low, some days yes, some days no. So essentially what that means is that on some days you'll have plenty of food, and we're not talking about counting calories, so it's just like eating till you're full. Other days you'll have little food, and the cool thing is that after a day of eating a lot, you don't feel like eating a lot the next day. If you had a heavy dinner, a big meal at dinner, I don't know about you, but I don't feel like having a huge breakfast. But if you've been led to believe that you have to have a huge breakfast, now you are kind of like forcing stuff into your body when it doesn't have to be there. So what this allows you to do is really start to understand your body a lot better, because there's no rules. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's, listen, I don't feel like having breakfast. That's okay. You're not going to hurt your body by not doing that. And in fact, part of the kind of the caloric cycling approach that I teach is a 5-day food cycling formula that incorporates a 1-day fast. Now, intermittent fasting, which is essentially a fast for 1 day, is one of the most beneficial things you can do for your health and your metabolism, your ability to lose weight. There are hundreds of studies showing its benefits. Now, before I kind of answer or show you how powerful it is, if you're a woman watching this and you've heard that intermittent fasting might be not so good for you, let me answer that. Most of the studies done on intermittent fasting have used what's called an alternate day schedule, which basically means you're fasting every other day. So you're fasting no food, only water, 3 to 4 days a week. Now, I'm not going to argue that's insane. Right? So the argument for women has been that intermittent fasting can actually suppress your fertility because you're not eating for half of your life almost. So what I'm about to suggest to you is that all you have to do is fast once per week. Okay, not 3 to 4 times, which is, I believe, excessive. But when you understand the immense benefits of fasting, it's crazy not to do this. And all of the successes, the transformations that I've shared with you so far in these videos, all of these individuals have incorporated this protocol, right? Which includes a 1-day fast. Let me share another story with you, and then we'll get into the carbohydrates in a second. So one of our clients, Sebastian DeGelinek, works in New York City, stressed out beyond belief, as you can tell, living in New York City and working in a very crazy place like that. And he was overweight, right? Had a belly, wasn't like obese, but had that pot belly that he just wanted to get rid of. And the stress was just like, it was making things worse. So when he came across this plan that I'm walking you through, what resonated with him above eating clean and doing all this other stuff, what really made the biggest difference for him was this 1-day fast. And at first he was a little bit scared, he wasn't sure what to do, but he found the 1-day fast the most life-changing experience from a dietary perspective that he's ever come across. And after just 21 days following this plan, he lost 23 pounds. That's more than a pound a day. And what's really cool about this is that after the end of his fasting days, he would find that he was actually craving healthy foods. He didn't want the junk that he would so often turn to with a lot of his emotional eating prior to doing this stuff. So 23 pounds in 21 days, that's pretty remarkable. Now, I'm not going to say that's going to happen for you. Everyone's different. But generally, the more weight you have to lose, the more weight you can lose. The fitter you become, the more strategic you have to become in order to lose those last couple pounds. So Sebastian's story is it's truly remarkable. So let's talk about carbohydrates for a second. We talked about how carbs are really important for our thyroid, right? If we decrease carbohydrate consumption for too long, we are going to suppress thyroid function. And there's a lot of you women watching who have left comments, for instance, during the Fat Loss Summit saying, I've been low carb, like less than 50 grams per day for years. Could that be the problem? And I was like, whoa, yes, that is pretty intense, okay? So here's how you want to do this. Like with cycling calories, you want to do a similar approach with your carbohydrates. So the way I teach it is like, out of that 5-day cycle, 1 day is a low carb day. And the reason we want to do a low carb day is twofold. First, when your body is not consuming carbohydrates, what do you think it's going to rely on for fuel? First, it's going to tap into your existing glycogen stores, right? Existing stored carbohydrates in your muscle and liver. It's going to go through those, for instance, if you have a little bit of an exercise session on those days, and then throughout the entire rest of the day, it's going to be relying predominantly on fat. And so this is the beauty of carb cycling, is that by strategically having a low carb day every 5 days or so, you give your body the ability to become a better fat burner and not so much a sugar burner. And the other benefit to that is that you actually burn more fat as a result, because your body is relying on fuel stores in fat as opposed to carbohydrates coming in from your food. And we do this very strategically by not doing it 5 days in a row, because if you did 5 days of low carb, you would start feeling really crummy, really miserable, and your metabolism would start to slow down. So carbohydrates are important, but we want to cycle them properly. The other way we use this is on, for instance, our high caloric days. I call them a 1-day feast. We increase our carbohydrate consumption to whatever we want, okay? But I'm not talking about pizza and burgers and ice cream and pie. I'm talking about healthy carbs, sweet potatoes, regular potatoes, yes, indeed, white potatoes done right, and I'll show you how. Things like rice, legumes. You can enjoy all of these things to your heart's content. Fruit, because on these 1-day feasts, we are now upregulating our thyroid and leptin hormone, that communicator to our brain. So it's strategic, but once you've gone through it at least once, it's very simple to follow. So again, I'll talk more specifically about how this works in our final video coming up in just a couple days. But for now, understand that cycling your calories and your carbohydrates is one of the most powerful, but also natural ways of eating. Remember, our Paleolithic ancestors, they didn't have access to eating 5 or 6 times a day. But why should we? Why should we think that we have to do that? It doesn't resonate with our metabolic makeup, okay? All right, step number 3, we are gonna shift gears and we are gonna talk about exercise. So exercise smarter, not harder. I've talked about how one of the fat triggers in the previous video was too much sitting and too much exercise, right? The two opposite ends of the spectrum. Here, we want to exercise in a way that is going to build our metabolism. And remember how to do that? We have to build our muscle. So we're not going to go on to a bodybuilding type of program. I mean, you can if you want to, but that's not what I'm suggesting here. We're here to lose fat, keep our metabolism healthy, and prime your body to be in a state where it's burning through calories at a greater degree all day long. And the only way to do that is through strength training. Most people go to the gym, hop on a treadmill or a cardio machine, look at the little screen on there, and they just kill themselves until they hit, let's say, 500 calories. But that is the ultimate short-term investment. That is like going to the casino, trying to get wealthy. The better strategy, the smarter strategy, is actually going to the gym, and there's nothing wrong with cardio when it's used properly, but going to the gym and focusing your time on actually building muscle, strength training, heavier weights, lower repetition. Women, you're not going to bulk up. Do not worry about that. As you probably know now after the summit, you need to focus on strength, because when you do that, it is the best long-term investment into your body. So if cardio is like a casino slot machine, strength training is like investing with the best wealth asset managers on the planet. That's pretty much what you're doing to your body, because lean muscle, your muscle, is the foundation of your metabolism. The more muscle you have, the higher your metabolic rate. And if you do nothing all day long, then you'll just be burning calories. What you'll find is that the leaner you are, the more muscle you have, the less you have to work out. And that's why what I prescribe with exercise is literally 3 30-minute workouts a week. That's it. And we're focused on strength, right? Focusing on really strengthening those muscles and getting your body to a state where it's just more metabolically active. So exercising smarter means also exercising in a way that is sustainable. Right? I'm not saying you should do some kind of like insane workout program 7 times a week that is going to leave you feeling exhausted, because that's not sustainable. You'll get great results doing that for a couple months at the most, but after that, you're going to be toast. So we want to find a way to make exercise enjoyable and sustainable. So exercising to strength train is very important, but I also want you to think about this. Move more, work out less. So if we're not working out in the gym as often as, some people say we should, what should we do outside of that? Well, as I mentioned before, get up off your chair and spend more time standing. Walk around, take the stairs, go for a walk every single day. Do some bodyweight squats, do some push-ups throughout the day. Little things like that, I call them micro movements, build up and make a huge difference over time. Okay, and this is especially true if you're very busy. If you've got kids, if you're working all day, get up in your office, do some bodyweight squats in your suit or whatever you have to do, and it will make a difference. Simple. Okay, I'm going to do a little exercise with you to kind of just bring this home. Okay, what I want you to do as you're watching this right now is I want you to contract. Actually, let's do this. I want you to take your bicep, okay, this muscle right here, and I want you to contract it as forcefully as you can. Okay, nice and hard. Keep it going. Get that muscle popped up. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Keep it going and relax. Okay, notice what you're feeling in your body right now. Do you feel anything? Are you out of breath? Do you feel that muscle right there a little bit warmer? Probably. Do you feel any general warmth in your body? Not really. Are you sweating? No. So what does that mean? That means that this exercise is doing nothing metabolically. It's really not charging you up metabolically. It's not raising your core temperature. Now, what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to but I'd like you to attempt to contract all of the muscles in your entire body, okay? So that contraction right there, do that, get your forearms involved, get your shoulders, get your core, get your legs, squeeze all of those muscles as forcefully as you can, and I want you to do that for the next 5 seconds. Keep it going. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Now what do you feel? Do you feel your body warmed up? Do you feel maybe a little bit of out of breath, right? Not like huffing and puffing, but slightly out of breath. Do you feel the difference there? That's what happens when you get more muscle involved. So if your body is naturally warmer, then it's going to be, that fireplace is going to be stoked up and burning calories all day long. One of the symptoms of low thyroid function is what? Cold hands and feet. Your thyroid hormone T3 is always communicating with the mitochondria in your body. So if your body is warm, it's a good indicator that your metabolism is healthy, right? If it's cold all the time, there's probably something going on with your thyroid, or maybe just a lack of activity and muscular tone. And there we go. So we want to exercise in a way that's going to build muscle and keep us moving on a regular basis, okay, without killing ourselves in the process. All right, so number 4, step 4. Actually, you know what? Before we go to step 4, I have a story to share with you. One of our clients, Tina Burney, amazing woman, okay? She, 4 years ago, she gave birth to her 11th child, 11 children, okay? And for years, she's suffered with adrenal fatigue. She's been on hydrocortisone, progesterone, testosterone, and thyroid medication. So this is somebody who can't kill herself exercising, because that's only going to make the adrenal issues worse, and that's going to suppress her thyroid even further. So with this whole smarter exercise approach, it really resonated with her, because finally she could do something to hopefully kind of bring herself back into balance and start to lose some of the weight. So after her 11th child a couple years ago, she initially lost some weight and then put it back on because life just got stressful. And obviously, as you can imagine, with 11 kids, that's pretty intense. So needless to say, as most other people have, following this plan, after just 21 days, she lost 4 inches from her waist and 2 inches from her hips. Needless to say, she's pretty happy about that. Right? So not bad following this type of advice, and obviously for her, the biggest thing, the biggest difference was these smarter, shorter type of workouts, which she could fit into her busy schedule and that actually worked with her body instead of killing it. So it's pretty excited. I'm really happy for Tina. So with that said, now let's move on to our fourth point, or our fourth step, which is to rest fully. Now, as you can tell, this is a little bit of a different approach than most metabolism approaches, which are like, hey, have some more spicy foods. There you go. Remember, we're talking about eating clean foods, cycling your calories and your carbs, exercising more intelligently, and resting fully. Rest is really important. Let me share another story with you. Another one of our clients, Sandy McGee, is an occupational therapist who looks after patients, right? Like, most people in the most healthcare practitioners actually really enjoy working with their patients. So she loves what she does, but it got to the point where she was so tired because she was at best sleeping 5 to 6 hours per night. Now, she would wake up in the morning feeling groggy. She wouldn't have the energy to really just be fully present with her clients, and it was just really wearing on her. She was also addicted to caffeine, as a lot of healthcare practitioners are, to just keep going, right? And to keep giving and giving and giving without really receiving any kind of rest and love and care for their bodies. So again, Sandy, told her about this plan. She was really excited about it, and she committed to it. And not only did she feel like a gourmet chef, because we're teaching her how to eat delicious foods and how to do so really simply, but more importantly, she was able to lose 11 pounds in just 3 weeks. She went from a size 33 inches in her waist to 30 inches, and she got rid of the caffeine. She has more energy than before, and she's now sleeping 7 to 8.5 hours per night. So she's pretty happy. She's feeling more energized. She's more present and focused with her patients during the day. And it's all because of following this plan. And specifically what she loved was this fourth step, which is how to rest fully. Resting fully is basically about understanding that there's a yin and yang, right? This ebb and flow in life, where if you're constantly going and going and going and going and going and going and going, you will break down. You have to, if you go up here, what goes up must come down. It's the ebb and flow of life. So you have to take time to rest and fully recover. So let me give you a simple tip. Sleep is really important, and one of the most important fundamental components of being able to lose weight. The reason for that is because sleep, we spend 1/3 of our lives sleeping. Pretty important, right? It dictates almost all circadian rhythms in our body. So all of our hormonal rhythms, the cortisol, melatonin thing, all of that is largely determined by how much good sleep that we're getting. So if we're not sleeping well, you can be eating clean, cycling your calories, but if you're not giving your body the adequate rest that it needs to repair and rejuvenate, you're gonna be fighting a losing battle. So I wanna give you a really simple strategy to sleep better. And it's what I do pretty much every single day, which is go to bed and wake up at the same time every single day. I know that sounds kind of robotic and boring, but it is the single most powerful thing I can tell you to do to give your body the consistent sleep schedule that it wants. Because when it knows that it's going to bed, for instance, at 10:30 in my case, and I wake up at 5 every single day, there's no all over the map type of fluctuations. It knows that that's a consistent schedule, and in the literature, one of the best ways to disrupt somebody's hormone path, their normal hormone patterns, is to put them on kind of like shift work, where they're working 4 days and like for instance, night shifts, and then the next 4 days they're just living like normal hours. That's one of the worst things that we can do for our body because it completely confuses our natural circadian rhythm. So resting fully is huge. Getting adequate sleep is very important. Now I'm going to tie this back into carbs for a second because this is going to blow your mind. What if I told you that having pancakes for dinner is actually a good idea? Yeah, I mean, obviously gluten-free, healthy pancakes would be best, but here's the reason why. You know Thanksgiving dinner, right? Well, A lot of people think they get sleepy after Thanksgiving dinner because turkey has tryptophan. Well, the reality is that chicken has more tryptophan than turkey does, and bananas have more tryptophan than both of them. So it's not because of the tryptophan, it's because of the fact that you've just bombarded your body with a ton of food and you're pretty tired because your body has to work so hard to digest it. However, carbohydrates are the best precursor to tryptophan crossing your brain. And the reason for that is because of what happens with free amino acids that are basically, I'm not going to go into the science, but basically as a result of carbohydrate intake several hours before bed. And I'm not talking about like high sugar stuff. I'm talking about like good, healthy, complex carbs. What that does is it allows more free tryptophan to cross into the brain, and there it's converted to serotonin, and from serotonin it's converted to melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. So having carbs later in the day is not only better for your cortisol, melatonin, circadian rhythm, but it's also better to help you sleep. So again, it's about knowing how to eat the carbs at the right times, and they're good for you, okay? The right ones are good for you. I'm not talking about the breads and cereals and pastas, which we should probably avoid, but healthy carbs are one of the best tools in your fat burning toolkit. So resting fully, very important. Another component to this is just taking care of your body, right? Doing things like yoga, self-massage, foam rolling, things like that to really break up a lot of the junk and a lot of the tension in your muscles and fascia is really helpful as well, just because you want to feel good on a regular basis. Because if you feel good and if you're not sore and stiff, then you're more likely to move and exercise more regularly, right? So it all goes together. Really, really important. So let's kind of like recap everything here. The thing you need to remember from this entire lesson is that the only way to reset your metabolism for lasting change, for lasting success, is to eat in a way that resonates and honors your body's natural rhythms, eating clean and cycling your calories and carbs in a natural rhythmic fashion, strengthening your body, and getting adequate rest. Boom. If you miss any of these, it's going to be like driving with 1 or 2 tires flat on your car. You need to have all 4 tires, all 4 wheels fully inflated and functioning, because when you do, your body is able to transform very quickly. And I'm talking in the space of a couple days, as we've seen with a lot of our success stories. Now, imagine this. Can you imagine doing this in your life? Can you imagine getting better sleep, sleeping throughout the entire night and waking up feeling more energized, having more focus throughout your day to be more productive and more present with those you care about? Can you imagine exercising just a couple times a week for less time than it takes to watch a movie? I'm sure we can find some time to do that. Can you imagine eating in a way that resonates with your body so that if you feel hungry, you eat, and if you don't feel hungry, you don't eat, and without feeling the guilt and shame? And how about eating delicious foods that take little to no time to make, that are actually really good for your body, and that don't taste like cardboard? Can you see yourself doing this in your daily life? Well, I hope you can, because I'm going to show you exactly how to do that in our next and final video. I'm going to walk you through the exact program that brings all of this together. And I'm going to show you exactly how to lose weight quickly, safely, and permanently. Because as you know, I'm not about the gimmicks. Believe me, it's the last thing I want to give you. I'm here to give you sustainable strategies that produce quick results but last. So in our final video, I'm going to walk you through the exact program that I've created to walk you through all of this to make your life as simple as possible and to help reset your metabolism so that you can lose up to 5 pounds per week in just 21 days or less. Plus, I've got a dozen or so amazing free gifts for you that I'll be giving you in that video. So you don't want to miss it. Be sure to stay tuned. It'll be coming your way in just a few short days. But in the meantime, let me know what you thought of this video, if this resonated with you. That's a big word in this video, I think, resonated. For you, what's been the one thing out of this video that really stuck out and kind of jumped out and was a big aha for you? So let me know in the comments below this video, and I look forward to seeing you in our final video coming your way in just a few short days, and I'll see you then.